As we continue in our Lenten sermon series called I Will, we've been working our way through the baptismal vows of the United Methodist Church and the call that those vows have on our lives as followers of Jesus Christ. You see, baptism is a three-part covenant between God, the one being baptized, and the church. The covenant is initiated by God. And it's initiated by God because of the love that God shows to every single person before we can ever show love back to God. In the United Methodist Church, we call that prevenient grace. It is why we baptize babies in the United Methodist Church. It's also a covenant with the person being baptized or the parent and or guardian of the child being baptized as they make their promises to God. And finally, it's a covenant with us as a community of faith, because as a congregation, we are making a covenant to help raise that child in the church and to nurture and include that child now before us. So every time we do a baptism and we get to the front here, I ask you all this question. Will you nurture one another in the Christian faith and life and include this person or child now before you in your care? And we all respond with these words. Say them with me if you would. With God's help, we will proclaim the good news and live according to the example of Christ. We will surround this person or child with a community of love and forgiveness, that they may grow in their trust of God and be found faithful in their service to others. We will pray for them that they may be true disciples who walk in the way that leads to life. Now, the scripture reading that Peggy shared with us this morning is taken from the book of John, and it offers a powerful example of Christ, nurturing and including as he washes the disciples' feet on the night before his death. I would think that, like the disciples, we probably prefer to hide our weaknesses, our scars, our calloused hearts, our vulnerabilities from others. When we come to church on Sunday morning, we put a smile on our face, right? Because we want everybody to think that everything is just fine and we have it all together. But Jesus sets an example for us. He nurtures his disciples in that vulnerable spot. And he will nurture us in that vulnerable spot. We're called to nurture one another. It's the statement we make when we share in that baptismal covenant. But not only are we called to nurture one another in that baptismal covenant, we're also called to include other persons that are in our care as well. So to get a sense of how radically inclusive the love Jesus had was, keep in mind, the night he washed the disciples' feet, he washed Judas's feet at the same time. Fast forward a couple of thousand years plus, and the question that we need to answer today is, what does it look like for us as a church to nurture and include others? I mean, after all, the idea of nurturing and including people is the basis for our mission statement as Christ Church, which is building inclusive community, sharing Christ transforming love. Building inclusive community, sharing Christ transforming love means we're to reach out to everyone. We're to share the good news of Christ with everyone. We're to help them grow in their faith. Living out our mission is what we're reminded of every time we baptize a child or a youth or an adult in this church, and we share in that covenant every single time. We're to include everyone. Again, keep in mind, Jesus knew Judas was going to betray him, and yet he still washed Judas's feet. Think about that for a second. If that doesn't drive home the idea that you never look at a person who Jesus didn't die for, I don't know what does. The first way that we can nurture and include people is to help them get on our discipleship pathway. This isn't just a catchy little thing that we've tried to put together to help people remember, although hopefully it does that. It's important to who we are and how we welcome people in. The first step on the pathway is to connect. We can only live into our mission and nurture and include others if we are connected to God and we're connected to other people. Sometimes we might not even see or feel those connections. Other times we might be surprised when we connect with God or each other. But having those connections allows us to grow. Once we get connected, our job is then to help people grow, which is step 2. So if we're going to nurture and include people, we need to help people grow in their faith, because once we make a decision to grow in our faith, we realize that we can't remain where we're at. As much as we would like sometimes to just have our relationship with God be a status quo thing and just kind of stay right there, if we're not growing closer to God, we're actually, unfortunately, falling away from God. We don't just get to stay in one spot. So we need to get people to understand the importance of growing in their faith. And one of the biggest ways we try to help people grow in their faith is for them to be part of a small group. When Jesus walked this earth, he did small group ministry. He invited 12 people to come and be a part of what he was doing. At Christ Church, we believe in the power of the small group as people come together and pray and study and fellowship and follow God and share God out in the community. And we call our small groups Christ groups because we're modeling them after what Christ did with that very first group of disciples when he started his ministry all those years ago. Christ groups are designed to help you get on the discipleship pathway so you can connect, grow, and give. You connect with others and God, you grow in your faith and your understanding of who God is, and then you give back as you use the gifts God's giving you to serve in the church and the community. But beyond small groups, we also offer a lot of other discipleship opportunities. Since you're sitting here in worship this morning or worshiping with us online, clearly you are part of the worship services that Christ Church offers every weekend. We offer 4 different opportunities for people to come and worship together. And being involved in a worship service helps us grow in our faith. Which brings me to the final step on the pathway: give. Living is giving. We live our best life when we give of our strengths, our gifts, our money, our self in service to God's mission. That's what being a disciple is all about. We are called to serve, not just to survive. Our giving makes a difference in the families of this community. Your willingness to serve allows us to provide the different ministries that we provide for the community and for the people of our conference and for the people around where we are. Believe me when I tell you, there is a place for you to serve. You might be sitting there thinking, I don't have a gift that translates to the church. I can assure you that there is a place where you can get plugged in. Guess where you go to find out how to do that? You go to our website at christumc.net/serve or the Connection Center, and Kelly can help get you connected. But beyond giving of our time and our talent to the important ministries of the church, without everyone's willingness to give financially to Christ Church, we could not do the work necessary to nurture and include the people that God is sending to us. So I want to say thank you for your willingness to give financially, and I want you to understand how your faithfulness makes such a difference in the lives of so many people so they can be nurtured and included in the work that we are doing here at Christ Church. So that's all part of being part of the discipleship pathway. And when you walk through the doors of the main entrance of our church, the biggest parking lot of our church, you see the words connect, grow, and give on the pillars, reminding us of the importance of being on that discipleship pathway. And at Christ Church, that pathway is more like a track. It's a circle because you're constantly connecting with new people, you're constantly growing in your faith, and you're constantly giving of your time and your resources so you can continue the process. It never ends. You just got to get on. But as individuals, it's up to you to make the decision to do that. So the next time we have a baptism of a baby or a child or an adult, remember what you're saying when I ask you the question, will you nurture one another in the Christian faith and life and include this person or child now before you in your care? And you respond with the words, with God's help, we will proclaim the good news and live according to the example of Christ. We will surround this person or child with a community of love and forgiveness. We will surround this person or child with that love and forgiveness, that they will grow in their trust of God, be found faithful in their service to others. We will pray for them that they will become true disciples that walk in the way that leads to life. That's what it means to nurture and include. It's an enormous responsibility. But don't worry, because look at those first three words. With God's help, we can make that happen.
Hi, I'm Sean Lewis, and I'm the Creative Arts Pastor here at Christ Church. Thanks for taking the time to connect with us for this short message. You can find the whole sermon from this week here on our YouTube page. You can also find our full service recordings from our live streams every week under the Live tab. If you'd like to join us live on a Sunday morning, we stream contemporary worship at 9 a.m. Eastern Time and traditional worship at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To learn more about Christ Church and how you can join us in living into our mission of building inclusive community, sharing Christ transforming love, visit our website at christumc.net.